Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Backseat Drivers. I'm Alex Weaver here with Chase and Zach from NASCAR.com. I think we are still talking about that finish from Kentucky Speedway. What a crazy finish. Kurt Busch, Kyle, the battle of the brothers.
I'm still kind of getting over it, too. I mean, it's boy, that was just kind of a bare knuckle brawl. I mean, the way that it kind of shook out between them. I mean, both of them had really performed well at that point, but I mean, Kurt just took it to another level on the restart.
I've watched it about 20 times. I'm not going to lie. Just like, that finish was just incredible. And another thing, I'm hoping that Kurt's finally got home from Kentucky after his brother left him there after winning. So
leave him hanging. Yes, exactly.
So an exciting finish to end Kentucky Speedway, but what stood out to you the most about those last maybe 2 laps?
Yeah, that overtime restart, I think the thing that stuck out to me the most is the push that Kurt was able to get from his teammate Kyle Larson to propel him to make it 3 wide for the lead and get that momentum.
Look at how hard the 18 is going into turn 1.
Kurt Busch to the outside.
I really feel like if Kurt didn't have his teammate behind him and have that support, maybe we would have seen a different outcome. That really propelled Kurt to the lead to battle with his brother those last 2 laps for sure.
Yeah, I think the thing that I saw was, yes, absolutely bold move to the high side, and we've seen that time and again from both brothers really. But one of the things that stood out to me was the amount of side drafting and the aero games that they played, but also how Kyle Busch really had a lot of restraint in terms of he really could have forced the issue, made that an even more aggressive finish than it was, and I think he kind of took it up, and Kurt kind of mentioned this post-race.
I'm proud of him. He gave me a little bit of room on that outside. He could have clobbered us against the wall, and third place probably would have got it.
It was his brother. He gave it everything he had, but he also gave Kurt a little bit of room, give him that respect. But that doesn't come out of Kyle Busch very often, where he's going to give you that little bit of room.
Well, Chip Ganassi Racing needed a win this season, and Kurt Busch kind of needed a win against Kyle. We've seen this is the 3rd time that they've gone 1 and 2, and Kyle Busch has finished 1, and Kurt has finished 2 every single time. Now the big brother can claim that he got 1.
I think Kurt was due in a lot of ways, not only just like the interplay against brother versus brother, but just the way that they had performed recently too. They had been in the ballpark, and
he's ran very well every week consistently.
Yes. Yeah, and to redeem yourself after what had happened the previous week at Daytona with it coming down pit road and then having that one kind of get away from them, to take this one back and to really give them a boost. I mean, that was one of the more genuine celebrations that we've seen
the
too.
Old school crew on the car.
Definitely.
Crowd surfing.
Yes. So all in all, I think they were due, and they celebrated like it.
And honestly, I think this is going to open the floodgates a little bit because Kurt and Matt McCall, that's a really good combination. I mean, we look at.
I love Matt reading the mean tweets the week before.
That was
about
fantastic
how he's never
too.
Going to get a win.
And that's the thing, going back to them climbing on the car and going to victory lane the old school style. Zach, I know you appreciate that. Sure, you're the historical guy for sure. But them get on the car and Kurt celebrating like he has. I mean, it was cool to see that kind of excitement.
And Matt McCall, he's a racer. I mean, he has it came up through the late model series and really performed well there, and still gets out there and has some extracurricular racing in him. So that's in his blood as well. So he has done it on the driving side of it, and now making it happen on the crew chief side.
And that's why I think they're such a good combination, because Kurt is like a racer's racer, and so is Matt McCall. And the fact that they're together, I mean, we talk about Brad Keselowski and Paul Wolfe, Joey Logano and Todd Gordon, those combinations, but Kurt Busch and Matt McCall, don't sleep on them. That is a good combination that's just coming to fruition after Kentucky.
Yeah, I love that Matt also took to Twitter and said that his wife told him that if he didn't win, not to come home. So he was really glad he got that win. All right, Zach, you hinted at it a little bit, but could this be the finish of the year for 2019?
I think it is, to at least you go through the first half of the season and what we've had so far. We've had some close finishes, but nothing that was something close to this, where we've had fenders smoking and just leaning on each other, and something that was really
at the TV.
really up in the air until the checkered flag came out. So I think it is, and I think part of that is overtime and just how crazy restarts have been this year. But I think you look at the personalities too, and just who wanted it more.
I love this finish. Like I said, I watched it a lot after the race, but I'm thinking that Chicagoland still kind of takes the cake for me because it was a first-time winner with Alex Bowman. We thought once Bowman got passed by Larson that was it. Kyle Larson was going to break the winless streak. But then Bowman came back, and that was incredible to see in the closing laps. So I'm going to say with that combination, with Bowman coming back and getting that first win, I think that one tops it for me so far.
All right, well, going with stuck in the mud versus the old school crew diving. All right, well, let's talk about Kurt as a whole, just in general as a driver. I feel like he is the least Busch that we mention out of the two, just because his brother's accolades, one of the best drivers to ever get in any type of car. But Kurt's career is pretty astounding in itself. He has 30 wins, 1 title, a win in 16 different seasons. Has to be a Hall of Fame worthy career.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing too is you add a Daytona 500 victory to that list as well, which just elevates his credentials. And it's tough because it's hard to compare and it's almost dangerous to call him the lesser of the Busch brothers. If you overlay his career and what his numbers have been, I mean, clearly there's a disparity there, but don't sleep on what Kurt has been able to do as well with a lot of different teams over the course of his career.
So do you think he's underrated, overrated, or rated exactly how he should be?
I think it's how he should be. If there is a little bit of an underrated nature to that, I think it's just because he, hasn't stayed in one place for all that long. I mean, his tenure with Stewart-Haas was, I believe, 5 seasons, and he did have a decent tenure there. But there have been a lot of places that have been his stops along the way. To be able to consistently win, maybe not in bunches, but able to consistently have, scratch the win column in so many different seasons, I think is something that you really have to tip your cap to.
I think another incredible thing about Kurt Busch is not only we look at the stats and what he's been able to accomplish, but also moving to different teams and also off the racetrack, he's had to overcome some adversity and things that have happened in his life. And for him to overcome all that and move around to so many different teams and still be successful like that and still win and beat Kyle Busch, who's arguably the best driver in the series right now. I mean, that's very incredible. And I think he's an underrated driver because he won the championship in 2004. It's been so long since he's won that I guess people maybe tend to forget about that and don't give him the credit that he's due, being a champion of the sport.
Yeah, I wanted to veer off just real quick. I know we've talked a lot about, the Busch brothers and where they finished, but, I did want to leave Kentucky by saying that Eric Jones finishing third, that was something that they desperately needed. And I think if you look further down the rundown, Clint Boyer finishing sixth.
Yep.
The last
pretty
month,
smart pit strategies too.
Yeah, and I think they're in a position where on the playoff bubble, they're not afraid to kind of gamble if they need to, and make those bold choices to kind of put themselves in position. So I did want to make sure that we noted them because I think both of them really needed those solid finishes to kind of reestablish themselves in terms of playoff positioning.
And we're at the point in the regular season where we're going to see teams like that throw Hail Marys. I mean, we have SHR who hasn't won yet, of course, but then you have Roush Fenway Racing. Yeah, that's shocking, of course. You have like Roush Fenway Racing where Ryan Newman finished 9th. I mean, he's been quietly having those finishes and he's on the bubble trying to get in and all that. And then you have Ricky Stenhouse Jr. trying to throw Hail Marys. He was strong. He was running the top 5 at Kentucky. So you have these teams that are going to take the risk and use the pit strategy and try to do anything they can to make up the points and get the win.
Well, speaking of being closer to the playoffs, I know some of us have chosen our 4, and we've stuck with our 4. But now looking back at the one camp and how strong that they've led those performances, and now he has a win, do we think he keeps getting better, and do we see him in our championship 4, making a heavy round into the playoffs? What do we see?
I don't think he's quite there yet. I need to see a little bit more in terms of them kind of establishing themselves and kind of breaking into that logjam of, what the 18, the 19, I'm still leaving room for putting those pretty solidly in. But
some more wins from the one is what you need.
I think so. It's unfair to, I think, call it a blip. But when you look at the teams that have won, multiple times, the Penske's and the JGRs, I'd like to see them make some more inroads before I'm able to kind of elevate them to that, quite that championship tier. But I mean, as they've shown, I mean, they have a puncher's chance if nothing else, the way our playoff format is. And so, the way that the schedule might line up, absolutely, there's surely a chance for them.
Well, I'm going to embrace the whole backseat driver approach with this, and I'm going to say whatever I want. And I think that Kurt Busch is going to be in the championship 4. That team really showed me something at Kentucky with the speed that they had. And that one car's had speed all year long. They've been consistent. And I think that victory really opened up the floodgates, and I think they're going to click off some wins. And I think they're going to.
Who are you kicking out to get in?
See, the thing is, my championship 4 isn't totally complete because I have Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. in there. Okay, so there's half of it. So there's 2 spots for me that are open, and I feel like Kurt's taken one for me right now with what they've been able to show all season and that victory. And they're peaking at the right time. I mean, we're getting close to the end of the regular season. Playoffs are going to start. This is when you want to gain that momentum, and they're doing it at the right time. But that 4th spot for me is still pretty much wide open.
I think they need to make a little bit more of a leap before they supplant, say, a Logano or a Keselowski was the other one that I was going to mention. That said, I don't think it's going to be exactly paired off just like that from the way the championship 4 will shake out. I think there's still a chance for some wild card entries to kind of get in there, looking at Alex Bowman, several other ones that may have that kind of shot. But yeah, be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
I just don't see 2 Penske cars in the championship 4. I don't know. I just have a funny feeling about it. I mean, like they've been strong and everything, but I don't know. I'm Team Kurt right now. He really showed me something. And like I said before, that pairing with him and with Kurt and Matt McCall, that's a little something more special than what people are giving credit for, I think.
Interesting to watch, definitely. I mean, it'll be a fun 10 races, however it shakes out.
All right, well, all of us are still going to relive that finish probably 20 more times. And if you didn't like that finish at Kentucky Speedway, then the 3 of us just really can't help you because it was some great racing. All right, we'll see you guys right back here in another edition next week of Backseat Drivers.